Welcome, everyone. My name is Danny Ross, and I'm going to be your host today for the AI Lunch and Learn. We're going to pick up where we left off with one of our previous lessons because I got requests to let's go ahead and finish that, Danny, before you get into too many new things. Now, I'm also going to start talking about building the AI into your actual websites and into your actual applications that you're using for your business. That's kind of the next week here in 2 weeks. We'll get into some of that specific examples and also take some questions from the audience as far as the types of things we want to build. I'll be reaching out to people who have signed up but haven't shown up. We'll get some more participation going that way as well. It's kind of fun to keep going just based on the things that we've been learning over the last weeks. If you have questions, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. As usual, I'll give you all the links to things and I'll show you this message here. I have it building out and for this week, I was updating it at the last minute and it's going, I attempted to generate the PDF, but the file generation environment encountered an error before the workbook could be created. And so it's explaining to me that it cannot do what I just asked it to do. I love AI, but every now and again, you're like, really? You can't do what you're supposed to do and you do every other week? It's just funny to me. Anyway, I'll have it try again. I'll tell it, take a break. Yeah, well, I'll show you. Take a breath. Right. You have to have a sense of humor when things fail. All right. So let's see if we can try it, see if it creates it this time. We've talked about the types of things that we want to do, including overcoming objections, improving offers, building trust, boosting appointments, and of course, winning proposals and systems. So those are the kind of things we've been working on over the last couple of weeks. Last week, we looked into customer profiles, lead magnets, nurture sequences, appointment systems, that kind of thing. And by the way, if you did miss the previous videos, we're still working on uploading the older ones, and specifically the 163 covers where we left off for this lesson. So I would think I was up to audit number 8. And so that should be in this video here. And then we'll get last week's video up as well. Let me put all the links in here for previous tags and things like that, including the information for that last week as well. So you can find all the links here. All right, let's keep building. So this week we're going to work on conversions. It's great to have leads coming in. It's great to have people visiting your website, but reality is you want to have people converting into either sales or appointments, consultations, those types of things. So that's where we're going this week. If anybody is new, please go ahead and just put a 1 in the chat if you've never been to one of our sessions before. That way I'm keeping track of who's new, that kind of thing. All right, so 10 customers for every 100 leads. You got a 10% conversion rate. Most organizations are probably 4 to 6% conversions. Obviously, if you can improve it to 15%, you're going to be hitting about, 50% more revenue without buying any more leads. So that's basically where we want to go. And then from there, we're looking at the drive framework. I bring this up every week. We've kind of covered how to deploy, how to reach, implement. This week, we're going to take a look at validating and expanding. So those are the kind of 5 steps within the drive framework. And the first prompt we're going to use is kind of picking up where we left off when we were doing our previous audit. So this way, everybody can kind of catch up. Now, for those who have not been on before, please keep in mind that we do have a sequence of events for these lessons. And so if you have not done step one is essentially running the interview prompt, and I'll drop that in for anyone who's missed it. And that interview prompt will allow you to walk step by step through a Q&A with the chatbot. It has 2 purposes. One, it allows you to drop everything out of your mind and put it on paper, if you will. metaphorically. And then that also trains the AI in your business and your concerns, your brand, and so on. It's like the foundational step. Once you've done that foundational step, the next thing you want to do is have it review the state of where you are today, which means you're going to want to run this prompt against your website so that it can effectively analyze what you have going on today. If you do those two prompts, you're immediately going to now have a foundation that you can just go on to this next one here, which is audit number 8. If I take this prompt here and I throw it into our favorite buddy, Mr. ChatGPT, which I use more so than any other one simply because I do. You don't have to use ChatGPT. You can use any a large language model or LLM that you like and prefer. There's lots of different reasons why people like different ones. So it's just really a matter of finding the one that you like based on my, yeah, let's grab this prompt here. I'll just drop it into our buddy here. Drop it in here, create a new chat. So I can give you the whole thread. Actually, I'm going to drop it in. So remember a couple of weeks ago, I taught putting these things into projects. So think of projects as folders, and by putting them into the folder, everything else that's in that project stays in memory, if you will. And so you don't have to retrain it. I'm going to just simply have it generate based on the same information. I gave you those two beginning prompts. Let me make sure I give you guys this one as well. And I'm going to give you the whole deck so you'll have everything. Based on business, go ahead and generate these top things. Again, we're continuing down the path where we're gathering everything that we need in one place. The prompt is real simple based on my business, generate top 20 questions. Again, I've trained it already on what my customers' our concerns are. So I'm just listing these out so I can flip them around and convert them into meaningful FAQs. Top 10 objections they raise, top 5 fears holding them back, create clear, compelling responses to each one. This exercise is super simple, but again, many businesses don't do these steps. Their websites don't reflect this information. So you definitely want to actually run through all 3 of those steps, get to this point now where you're identifying all the things. And this is what you're going to train the AI on so that when it is answering questions about your business for your visitors, they essentially will get all of this information as well. They're getting the FAQs, they're getting everything. Now we're going to convert everything that we've just put in into the FAQ section. Very, very simple. All right, we've kind of got an understanding where we are there. And now we're going to look at the next step here. Building an FAQ asset that sells. Okay, so now we're going to convert this from just a theoretical kind of thing into a physical thing. This new backward and forward is interesting. Let's see if we can get in here. I love Gamma, but this particular tool I'm not that much of a fan of. Let's see if we can get this to work here. All right, there you go. And now we're going to drop this into our stack here and move along. All right, cool. Let's grab this. And it's essentially, like I said, first identifying and then converting it into real straightforward FAQ that I can throw right onto the website. I can also go in and build out my blogs. I can build out my emails. I can build videos and so on and so forth. These are all things that we can immediately convert. It makes it really, really simple to do those types of things. And so you can see here the simplicity of it and the ease of which we can get this all done. All right. Audit number 9. This is the competition one. You can do business in a kind of a blind kind of way, or you can say, okay, I need to find my competitors, and then I need to look at what they're not doing, and then I fill in the gap. It's really simple when you think about it. But again, most of us don't take the 5-10 minutes it takes to do that step, and that'll help you build your website where you're answering questions that your competitors or not. If you're in any particular industry, any space, you want to be able to just quickly find their, you have your SWOT, then you're going to find their SWOT. All right, so let's do these. I'm just going to grab this here, real simple. And instead, again, I don't have to list the competitors, but if you have never done this exercise, I can say analyze my competitors. And so instead of listing them, I would just put them out there. Now, if you don't know who your competitors are, that's also a prompt. Give me my top five competitors. Actually, I think I did spell it right. Give me my top five competitors, analyze my competitors, identify SWOT. I can do both in one prompt because the idea is let it do the research, finding, who is out there, that kind of thing. This is interesting. It's pulling up interesting things, but not really my competitors as far as I would be concerned. Now, 1000X is one of my favorite former partner groups. I'm still actually part of it. So they're not necessarily a competitor, but it's interesting. So let's see, business marketing opportunities. Where do I start? So they're starting to market within Google is starting to market within ChatGPT. We knew this kind of ad thing was coming. So this is new. At least I haven't seen this particular message before. I think they're trying to get ahead of Apple. So I don't know if you guys are kind of tracking what's going on in the AI space, but Apple's about to launch their latest version of Siri and their Apple Intelligence. And the advantage that Apple has is ecosystem. And by that, I mean it's fully integrated into all of if you're in the Apple world, all your devices and things like that. So it knows everything about you. While OpenAI and Apple are partners in AI, obviously Google is trying to also get into the space where they know everything about you. So they're connecting into your chat GPT, they're connecting your email and putting them all together so they can learn a lot more personal context about you. And that's where that message comes up as far as marketing goes, so that they can get us now connecting even better. Even though I have OpenAI ChatGPT on my book, it's still walled in. It's not able to connect to Gmail and all these other things, whereas Apple is going to basically give the highway there to connect all that stuff. So I say all of that to say it's an interesting world that we're going to be living in as AI gets more and more integrated, and you have to pick which company you trust to have that level of connectivity with you. Right now, the simple fact is Google products, some of them, like Gmail, regular personal Gmail is free, which means you're the product, which means they're using your information and selling it through marketing to propose things that they want people to buy. Same thing with Facebook, whereas the paid versions of products have a little bit more privacy built in for obvious reasons because you're paying. And then you get to this stage now where everybody's vying for personal context information. So here's all the advantages of our business. So business growth company, not an AI company. We help small businesses grow using AI. These are just examples, of course, specific to Digital Express, but it would give you the same sort of data about what you have. These are all really good, I think. Pretty simple, but pretty good. And then from there, you can see where it is. Kind of laid out some of our competitive position, competitive advantage, and that's what we want to be able to convert. So what you want to do is then have the AI build you this sort of competitive. We'll put this in the chat. All right, so you have it. Once you know where competitors are weak, you can engineer a position that makes you the obvious differentiated choice in your market. And so if we drop this puppy in here and we tell it to run and go. Now we have where we are. We're talking about small business AI growth, positioning option, making your small business look, market, and operate like a much bigger company. That's the ultimate goal. Even when we were first starting with the internet, the nice thing about the internet and websites is if you take the time, a little bit of resources, a little bit of money, your website can look as professional as much larger organizations. Therefore, as far as people on the internet visiting your website are concerned, you are just as large as a competitor 10 times your size, and it allows you to pretty much have an equal playing ground when it comes to competing. These are the types of things that you want to work on in your industry, and you can see how these taglines and these business things are going to make it seem like you are perhaps larger than you are. And that's the idea. You want to put together these call to actions, put together all of these things that lead. When you're putting together your marketing attack, it's basically the same messaging. Instead of make your small business look and operate like a much larger company, it would be something as simple as in the cleaning business, and we have the experience, we have the cleaning team with over 30 years of experience that can help provide you with the best cleaning services, blah, 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 blah. That's the idea is whatever the marketing is, it's directly in competition with whoever you are going up against, who's spending, a $500,000 in marketing and advertising every day on the radio. Your website can look just as effective as their website, and that's the whole goal. Don't worry about whether you're a smaller organization or not. Your website can effectively look like, and in the case of Digital Express, I would be marketing that to small, medium-sized businesses, and I would be talking their language, their concerns, and that kind of thing. That's why I use that as an example of what you would want to be doing as well. We've talked about this on a few other, and this is just pure logic and simple common sense. Happy customers are the least expensive marketing engine that you can have, but you have to ask, and you have to give them an easy way to do it. If you make it as simple as possible, even almost up to writing the referral and just asking them to send it to their business acquaintances, that is almost the easiest way. Same thing here is if you have a really good conversation and you're wrapping up. Before we wrap up, I have a question. Can you help me and help me find somebody who would enjoy what we just experienced, where you're happy, that kind of thing. And same thing as if you're leaving a voicemail, you want to create these simple things for your assistant to reach out to people. If you're in the type of business where you can offer an incentive, that's obviously going to be important. You can power up with partners, right, that are related industries, non-competitive related industries, things like that. And then same thing, you can write an email. And as I said, you can actually write the email, send it to your current customer and say, hey, can you send this perhaps to someone who you think would benefit from my service? In other words, you're not asking them to do your marketing for you, but if you know someone and you give them the tool to share it, then that usually goes a long way. And the reason for that is if they're happy, they'll tell people around it about it and they're happy to share it. It's not like you're asking them to do something, but you're making it easier. You're not asking them to do something that they wouldn't do if they thought about it. Most happy customers do not think about telling other people. Whereas, of course, if they're unhappy, they tell everybody. Taking that happiness and converting it into a referral is the goal. Just making it easy and give them a couple of different options, like you hit them maybe 3 times over a month or something like that, asking them for a referral. Again, you don't want to be ridiculous about it, but it's absolutely good business to take that happy customer and convert them into more customers. A clarity problem. What's a clarity problem? You're excellent at doing whatever your industry is, meaning your business's value is high. You're delivering on what you've promised, but you're perhaps not great at explaining it in a simple, clear way that is emotionally compelling. We've talked about this before, that people don't really buy products and services or features. They buy the emotional journey that will happen if they use your products or services. They buy the outcome. They buy the what's in it for me thing. And so you have to make that very, very clear on your website, and you have to propose it multiple times down the page so that it is always front and center as they go through and make that decision whether to do business with you. We go with a headline, core promise, make it emotionally compelling. So in other words, I could do it because I've already trained this thread. I don't have to go through the steps of creating the offer. I can just jump right to, hey, using everything that you know about me, give me a specifically compelling headline, make your small business look, market, and operate like a company 10 times your size. So very simple. This one, again, core promise in the next 90 days will help you identify, implement, and so on. So I'm building out this whole document, as you can see, step by step here. What is you're going to offer? Make it very simple. Don't get complicated. Make it really about them. Key benefits, more customers, more revenue, more time, less stress, future proof. Real, real simple. What we teach you all the time, Godfather offers or atomic offers. Headline, what if your marketing team, sales team, operating customer support work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week without adding headcount? So there's a real simple alternate Godfather kind of offer. And so this is what we talked about last week, building an AI business pod. So you can look back on last week's lesson and take it from there. So I like some of these concepts, and so I like to refresh them again. All right, so good. Let's keep going. We can essentially take our offer, rewrite it, and then we can build this call to actions, bold call to actions. This is the whole idea. You can run this type of a headline, get 50% more customers from your existing leads in 30 days. My point is, you can create that headline, you can create those bold statements that gets people attention, and then you can use it in marketing. We can definitely do that. All right, based on my audience, this is the fun part. Our goal is real simple. We want to create content that converts. So these are the things we've talked a little bit about before: authority posts, objection posts, trust building posts, and then call to action posts. You kind of do these in a sequence, and you run them in the least expensive way possible, whether it's LinkedIn posts, whether it's Facebook posts. These are free effectively, and you can post these in a sequence. We talked about calendars before, we talked about automated social media posting before, and we kind of walk through some of the concepts there. Next week, we're going to actually build some engines or agents, excuse me, that run in your environment. And so we're going to kind of focus in on that. So again, your content should follow a simple ratio. Your call to action should always be after you've provided value. We talked a lot about that last week. You have to build those lead magnets. You have to build that value so that people will want to learn more from you because you've already given them something without them having to pay for that. And then you build up on that from the authority to the trust, and then you answer any of their objections, and then you go for that call to action, which is where you ask for the meeting, ask for the consultation, ask for the sale or the purchase. All right, so we have the authority post, which is just leading up to why they should even consider doing business with you. And so it's giving you these five, and you could put these out into the social media world without asking for anything. You're educating. I would add a link to more content where they can learn more. So that's a simple post. Learn more here. And then they would go off to get more meat and potato out of these. And so these are just the things that I would state to grab their attention and then bring them in. AI is too expensive. That's pretty simple. They're like, what do you mean? All right. And then you can kind of go into the concepts, and then something like I'm not technical. So these are all objections that you would answer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in your FAQs or in the AI agents we're going to build next week. We're going to talk about AI agents that are going to be answering these questions. The simplest form of those are chatbots that live on your website that you train up on all of these. And so that's the purpose of this exercise, is to get all of this content that we're now going to then train up our AIs into, so that it can answer almost any question that it would get. Depending on your platform of choice for your website, you may already have these types of chat bots built in. If not, we have tools that we can share with you on that are easy to build custom chat bots. Okay. So turn these into 20 posts for LinkedIn, Facebook, email, video, and so on and so forth. So now you're building up a library over time which handle exact questions, objections, fears, and motivations of your ideal customer. That's the goal. And so we're going to work on continuing to build out our library and our documentation or content that we need to be able to train the AI, and then go from there. And then appointment confirmation, email, appointment reminders, show up text, no show recovery, and then post meetings. These are all fixing that automation step where you reach out to people, they may or may not, they may agree to an appointment and then they don't show, things like that. But you want to use the automations built into the various systems, depending if you're using Calendly or Zoom or all of these different tools, they can build in these automation reminders and things like that. You want to utilize the tools that are already out there. You don't have to build these types of things, but we can build an appointment setter using AI. We can build the related information into those tools as well. And then tracking the conversions. This is part of the validation, or V, in the drive formula. We want to see what kind of results are we getting over time. And so you want to be able to have an automated system that tracks these for you. We're going to help you build all of those. And then the rest of it is the revenue system. So you have the customer acquisition and going all the way through conversion. This was kind of breaking down some of the marketing terms. So you have the acquisition layer, tracking your traffic, what lead magnets are you using, how does your landing page work as far as converting? And then as do you get that email address, are you nurturing it over time? And then, of course, you're moving it towards an appointment. And then the idea is, the way it kind of ties together is, you need to be having the AI answer questions automatically, help you build trust, either through the existing website and or the marketing that you're doing going out. And then you're going to make your offer and handle objections again, and then close. So that's the idea. And then once you close, you're going to turn on your referral engine. So I think you guys see how those things all kind of come together. So what we can do is, I was thinking about doing this as a breakout, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump ahead because I don't want to slow down on where we're going here. So this part, though, is a really good, simple thing. So we want to build out for next week, take the prompts that are here and make sure that you build out do your homework, build out your FAQ page, then competitor analysis, and all 5 of these things that should be already in your task list, but I'm going to make sure that I get that to you again. So I'm going to share this link. There we go. All right, so that's the link for the catch up on where we left off. Again, the idea is we had done part of this and we had started it, and so I just kind of finished off that previous lesson. Okay, good. We have accomplished that task. It was on my to-do list, and I even mentioned it last week that we needed to finish that lesson that we started about 2 weeks ago. All right, let me grab the next deck. Here, give me 1 second. I think it was this one here. Present mode. All right. I believe this is the right deck. We'll find out in a second. All right. So what we've built is the revenue acceleration, power customer acquisition, and AI conversion. That's what we just finished that deck. And so now we're kind of picking up where we left off with the whole repeatable system of building out these AI systems. Again, slow contact, the leads don't get followed up on fast enough, inconsistent follow-up, slow proposal systems, and then no visibility depending on the CRM system or the customer management system that you're using. Do you have one? Are you using spreadsheets? How are you tracking your customers? Things like that. If you need some ideas on CRM systems, there's a ton of them. There's no right or wrong way to do this, so we're happy to help you with that. But again, the modern AI powered sales engine is what we're trying to build. You have a website visitor, you have an AI who's going to handle the sales contact, do the lead qualification, follow up, and then, of course, leading to an appointment. Those are basic steps in what we're trying to build here. An AI sales team, we want them to be able to greet the customer where they are, whether they're on their mobile device, they're on the phone, they're in email or in the chatbot on the website, those types of things. And then we want to be able to create a qualification and scoring system so you know which are actually good leads that you need to follow up on right away. And then we have to build a system where we're scheduling and following up. Those are the goals. We want to create that AI sales team or teammate. So the first one is the SDR or Sales Digital Development Representative. It's a sales rep. You want to make it custom built. And so you want to basically be able to have it work in conjunction. It's going to handle the initial prospecting engagement. It's going to handle in real time FAQ questions and answers. It's going to handle the conversations for the lead qualification. And then once it decides everything, it's going to set the urgency. All right. I like the way it's putting that. Think of the SDR, sales development rep, as a tireless, perfectly trained junior rep who never calls in sick. And that's the goal of using the AI as an employee. First thing we need to do is create a comprehensive business description that you can use to train your AI. You need to give it all of your services and pricing guidelines. You shouldn't do that. For most industries, it's better to have that conversation. So sometimes you can definitely have the pricing up intertwined with your AI agent. If your goal is, I have enough customers, so now what I want to do is create better qualified prospects so that I don't waste my time trying to work with someone and they simply don't see the value in what I'm offering. So in some cases, it's good to have your agent provide that pricing upfront so that there's no confusion, especially if you're in a business where your hourly rates may be X and there is really no reason to discount that. And so you can definitely put that out there. Or if you're selling a product or service, then obviously the price of that product and service can be public domain in that sense. So that's why I said it depends on your business. If you need to have more of a qualification and custom pricing model, then yes, you wouldn't put that pricing out there, but you could have it answer questions that are price related without saying, hey, this is your final price. You could say pricing starts at, and you give them that whole range. Handle objections, and then, of course, would be great as soon as you get that sale or that customer, have it automatically create testimonials based on comments that those people are giving you is absolutely fantastic. And a lot of times I'll have a Zoom conversation with a happy customer and I'm like, great, I'm going to use that quote that you just said. So that kind of is the idea behind how you want to do that. So you want to put all of this into the knowledge base as you build it out. And as I said, it just depends on your platform. What does that knowledge base actually look like? So we can take a prompt like this. This is a little bit more comprehensive a prompt, and we're going to break it down and kind of work on it. And we'll probably end on this exercise, and then we'll pick this up next week. I'm going to drop this into the chat. And then, so you are my AI sales development representative. my ideal customer is, my service. So your role is to engage prospects warmly and professionally. So you can set up all of this and tell the AI exactly how you want it to behave. And so you're setting up the quality, qualify by need, timeline, and budget. And so it's kind of walking through and then ask one question at a time, be professional, consultative, and helpful. If the prospect is qualified, recommend booking a call, never pressure and guidance. So it's kind of setting up how you want it to behave. So I can go in here, and so we've already kind of started on some of these. And so I would tell it my business is, my ideal customer is described in this project, and my services are. I could say something like, And so ask one question at a time, be professional, so on. If I tell it to run this, it's just going to build. I can tell it what I want it to do. I could really tell it why I'm doing it, but I'm just curious to see what it does here. You're not a salesperson. Okay, so it's building out the document that I would feed to the chatbot. Some of it anyway. It definitely would need more detail than what it's offering here. These are all good. All right, so simple. So depending on the chatbot tool that you're going to use, and we're going to get to that in just a second, this is the AI agent having a conversation with people. And so not all leads are created equal. Your AI should quickly and naturally determine. So this is basically where you lay out the foundation of the type of tool that you're going to build and how it's going to do the qualification. So when I talk about what chatbot tool you're going to use, I'll give you a couple of examples. So let's say I'm in Wix Studio and I'm using this for a customer website. And so I'm building out one. Let's pick one of these customers. So let's say we were doing this one here. And what's interesting is you can use this on any of your customer bases. Right. So they have new tools here. They have their own AI agents. This one is broken down into a marketing agent, personal assistant, front desk agent, and so on. You can choose one of these. You can say, hey, this is a beta, by the way. So you can say, I want to learn and understand. So before I get started, so that I can communicate, set my communication style, and I'll take it from there. So right now it's kind of lingering right in there, and then you have more detailed, and so you can kind of tune it. I like the formal versus casual, again, based on your industry. Some industries are more formal and you need to be very specific. So now that they've kind of set up the basic information, now we can talk about the specific communications channels that it's allowed to use. So you can actually go in and set up your WhatsApp. This is what I meant by selecting how the AI is allowed to communicate. So you can set it up in WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and Gmail as an example. So that's one way to kind of create this agent that's going to be dealing with your customer base. Now, here, let's create another way that is a little more generic. Let's see if this is up and running. Cool. So if I went in here and I wanted to do a chat bot, so we can create a chat bot. Okay, let's add a new one. And so this would be for Digital Express. This is in our BuildBiz.ai platform. What's nice about this particular chatbot builder is when you're done building it, you can drop it into any website just by embedding a little bit of HTML code. And now you have a trained chatbot answering questions on your website. And again, this works on any website. So it's really, really cool from that perspective. So if I go in here, I can set up the initial, this is the code snippet I was talking about, this little code you would embed into your website and it would be able to answer the questions. So the chatbot settings is where you can go in and set up your chatbot. And so you can call it whatever you want and you can determine how it's going to greet people. Is it only going to do email? You can put up an icon and then you can pick colors for it. So, whatever color you want it to use and then save the changes. I think it won't let me, oh, it will let me do it. So this is the instructions that we were just working on. So you are a helpful assistant that provides clear and concise responses. So I could go in here now and define how we want it to work. So this is the instruction set that we need to create. So the one that we just created here, this is what I was talking about. This is what the AI is going to be using as its instruction set. So AI is helping you create that agent or chatbot that's going to sit on your website 7 days, 24/7 and answer questions. So these are the types of things that you would want to do. As I said, this is a very simple instruction set. We would want to make it much more comprehensive and detailed so it can handle more situations. But I think you're beginning to see the idea. So we would take that information and we would drop that in there. And then the secondary part of every AI agent is you need to create a knowledge base. So in this case, we haven't done that yet, but I can select one. So like for instance, here's one for Empire Board of Realtors. I could use that knowledge base, or I can step out of this and go and create that knowledge base first and then drop it in there. So the idea is the AI has its instructions and it has knowledge. Now, what's a knowledge base? Okay, let's do that step. I believe I might have skipped a slide. Sorry about that. That's the follow-up one. Okay, my fault. Let's do this. I'll do it the simple way. Recommended qualification flow. Let's do it this way. Let's create a comprehensive knowledge base for digital express AI can use to train my AI agent. Right? I'm going to cheat. Again, it knows a lot about me. Give me a PDF. All right. So by doing all the previous interview steps and all the other things, I already have a pretty detailed description that I can use for the AI. So I can have it has all of this information that I can then build into my knowledge base PDF. So my company overview, all of these historical things that I've done. And I can download this file and let's see, it's pretty simple. This is actually the short version of it. So I would say to it, okay, that's just not enough information. I need a lot more. And I would have it build a book, if you will, a actual knowledge base. By the way that the knowledge base system works here, let's duplicate this tab so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. You can go here to the build bills and you can create your knowledge base. There we go. So I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, so this one is the Empire one. So a knowledge base can be that one PDF that I just created for Digital Express, but it can also be tons of things that you have done in the past. So it can be files, so you can upload all kinds of files. Here's some updated rules and regulations, all your standard operating procedures for your business, all the contract forms and things like that that you want to train the AI about. So this is all about real estate. So there's lots of things in here that are specific to real estate, broker rules and things like that. And then there's real URLs that the AI can use to learn about your business and your systems. So you can give them all of these websites, your own websites, related industry websites, things like that. And then you can upload documents, and all of those would be put into what's called a knowledge base. So you can have as many of these as you need. You can see this one has got about 28 documents in it that we've trained it on. So now the AI immediately becomes super knowledgeable. Plus, it's using everything it can learn from the internet. So what's the purpose of having these individual documents versus just letting it loose on the internet? If you want to control the data that the chatbot is going to use to respond to your customers, it is much better to give it a restricted set of data sets to learn from, because you never know what kind of weird answer you can get if you just let it loose on the internet. It's much smarter to use only the types of data you want it to be constrained by. And then you can tell it all the things it's allowed to do. And just as importantly, you want to tell it the things that it's not allowed to do. If you noticed in the document that we created, when you're talking about SOPs and workflows, it's really, really important to tell it what the AI is allowed to do and what the AI is not allowed to do. So in here somewhere, there should be things that it is not allowed to do as far as the responses and things like that. So never make promises that can't be. Here we go. Never be pushy, aggressive, overly technical, salesy. But you can also put, that's the personality one, all these rules and restrictions. You are not a salesperson. You're a business advisor helping prospects. So you have to be very, very careful about the things that you let it do and things that you don't want it to do. Okay. So those are both related to each other and very, very important. So now that you kind of see that, and again, I'm using this buildbiz.ai. I would knowledge base with all of these documents, all of these links, all of these URLs, all of these things that I'm training it on. And then once I have gotten all of that in there, I would select that knowledge base, the Digital Express knowledge base. And then it has its instruction sets of what it can do, what it can't do. And then from there, we would then go the next step of loading that code snippet up onto my platform. And so then that chatbot would go live and be able to answer questions. So we'll complete this next week. I think we're right at the top of the hour. Thanks for joining us this week. And we'll pick right back up on this, how to create these AI sales tools that are real world that you can utilize in your business. All right, everyone. Thanks. And we'll continue on next week. Have a good one.